an iPhone, so he doesn't have the special thing, so you can see it like dancing.
Good morning.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, you're breaking the rules right
like,
now.
here, what, oh, fine. Yeah, but it was like.
All right, testing. It looks like we are recording.
Are we on?
We are on.
Okay. I'll give it 1 minute. I assume that's done. Wrong
Do
assumption.
you have a preference as to whether I sit here or there? I'm okay either way.
No, you're fine. Okay. This is call to order the May 14th meeting of the Public Health and Safety Standing Committee. Thank you, Jody.
We're finally getting a minute, Kelly.
And we have
Like, just
And,
very brief notes. I was like, oh.
Brad and Chief. Thank you for the minutes. They look good. I didn't print out a copy of it. I'm guessing you probably would vote for them.
Yes, yes.
So we're going to take an informal vote, 2 against none, as minutes approved.
You can make it formal. That's a quorum of your 3.
It is.
That's right.
Approve.
And here's the fun one, the fireworks.
Okay. Yeah, so, I think my personal opinion is we just need to go back and reconsider the resolution and have them vote on it. Because, and just find out once and for all what the majority of people in Red Lodge want.
It's very hard to make a decision based on 20 people.
Yeah, exactly.
When
So,
you have over 2,000 people in town, one would assume that the other 2,000 technically,
either
don't care or.
not on Facebook, or, you know, I mean, we really still have 2 choices. We could revise the existing ordinance. It wouldn't take effect until, you know, next year. We do the resolution, put it before the voters, leave it generic enough so future councils can decide when, you know, if it passes, when they're allowed, what types are allowed, you know, they
I
may
like
be
the
that,
types, yes.
it may be that only, you know, sparklers and little tanks and parachute men are allowed.
Chief, did you have a chance to, break down the number of calls over the last 4th of July?
He did, he sent those to me, I'm sorry, I should have sent them one.
Okay.
One thing that I noticed too, a lot of the fireworks complaint calls are not recorded too, because I've worked during that stretch and they're so repetitive that dispatch is just sending us addresses. It's like, go to this one, okay, now go to this one.
Yeah, because the actual number of calls you had on there was very few.
Yeah, and a lot of them too are, I guess in a way self-initiated by the officer, which is like on view. Oh, I just saw this. If they're in between calls, we can go handle it.
Yeah.
Hey, no fireworks, that sort of thing.
Were there any, tickets actually written?
No. Mayor?
Just warnings?
Yeah, verbal warning mostly, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I would ask why we don't keep a better log, even if it's just a tick sheet, because having managed call centers my entire life and staffing and everything else, that's an important thing to be able to say, you know. We did 322 calls or response, even if, you know, tickets written was zeroed, it would be nice to have those real numbers.
One thing that I can institute, because I know that dispatch is, they are as well overwhelmed and understaffed, especially for major events. One thing that I can institute during those very busy times is having my officers keep a patrol log, handwritten patrol log, or on a computer. Everybody's got an NDT. It's super simple. We have the template for it. That way I can have more accurate readings for you the next time that question's asked.
I would even go with just a little scratch on a piece of paper.
Sure, yeah.
It doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
I would go
That's
faster
easier.
doing little.
And for this year, given where we are for this year, my 2 cents is, as he who is charged with enforcing what the policy. Zoom user, I'm gonna put you on mute, this is an FYI. from an administrative side, enforcing the policies that council's put forth, we will make an effort this year to, A, work with the rentals, which I think are already doing it, but I'll work with the, and again, it's gonna be prioritized, it's not gonna take priority over
Right.
a lot of the other things that are coming up, but we will,
But
given
maybe-
that's our charge, we will address it.
And maybe this year really concentrate on getting accurate data. So if we, you know, do decide to change it, or we decide to put it to voters, we can actually say, you know, and get the information out there
I'll send out
on how,
preliminary, I'll send out a preliminary email to my guys right after this meeting, just let them know that it is.
okay. Yeah,
What if we suggested to the city council that we table it until after the 4th of July, until we actually have some data to look at?
well, and it won't go back to council unless we send it back to council. So it would be us that are basically just working on getting more data for it.
David?
The other thing that I will present, I know it was asked, there was an opinion asked of our city attorney about putting it on the ballot issue, and he had some pros and cons. This came up at the conference I was at last week, actually. And I will tell you that Dan's response to it overall was, this is absolutely the most democratic thing in the entire world, to send this to the voters. And so he was very much in favor of doing that, not only on this, but a couple of other issues that
Yeah.
came up, so.
And I will say that after talking, I have chatted with, you know, a couple of the property managers, and they already don't allow them in their
And they
vacation
still
rentals.
won't.
And they still won't, even if they are legal. So honestly, you know, it's not necessarily people renting a vacation rental coming up here and shooting them off. It's, a lot of it, I think, is just second homeowners coming up and using their property over the 4th of July. And, you know, and residents, you know, so it's,
Okay,
So-
well, then we'll not do anything for a while, let's get some data before we
yeah,
do.
and, I mean, we'll keep it, moving, yeah, we'll get the data, Dave will work with, information and enforce, and keep them, you
Okay.
know, and.
Is there anything
obviously-
wrong with just leaving it as is? Do we have to
No, that's
vote?
definitely an option. It's an option out on the table,
I just
for
don't
sure.
think gathering data is gonna change our position on this.
Well, it's more to get the information out there to the people, if we put it on the ballot, or if we do decide to change the ordinance, we can say, you know, we had 300 calls, and, you know,
That's
it's
quite a
a big use of our resources during the 4th. Or, yeah, you know, really, we only had like 25, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, because right now, you know, I just want the data to back up what our
Sure.
dispatch and police department are telling us.
Yeah,
And all that to me is just recording, you know, just a simple,
let's get the
another one.
information
Oh,
before we
there's
do
another one.
anything.
yeah.
So for right now, we're just gonna leave it alone, we're not gonna put it back to city council.
I know I've had a couple of calls and an email, very, very, very much opposed to it.
Those are the only ones we've heard,
Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's just leave it the way it is, right? I mean,
Well,
people like it this way as opposed to, why are you changing? What's wrong? What, you know?
Well, the issue is the number of, calls we get into dispatch. And the fact that we don't have the manpower to adequately enforce it. It's always it's not.
it's not a priority on the list of
Mhm.
calls.
Right, and if you get, how long, if you have a DUI, how long is your officer
I know.
out of commission and tied out?
Anywhere from 4 to 7 hours.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
Everything from there.
yeah, because, I mean, we don't have a jail here, it's not like you can just throw them in the,
Well,
Horse trailer.
this is without
Yeah.
taking them to jail.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So, field sobriety, office sobriety, toxicological testing, or, labs at the hospital, depending if there's a telephone search warrant that's applied for and granted, that's another 40 minutes. Paperwork, report, evidence preservation, and then, submission.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for one arrest.
yeah.
I think that what we should actually do is, is have the chief give us a list of all the calls on the 4th of July. Not just the fireworks, but the DUIs and the
Yeah,
fights and disturbances, and that would give us an idea that, look, these guys are really busy, and you're messing around with calls.
Well, and what happens is, I understand, I absolutely agree with Dave, that if you have a law in the books, people, there'll be a set group that will follow it, you know, and it does help in that regard. But I personally feel that sometimes we're creating this almost unrealistic expectation from the public that we're gonna stop the fireworks from going off. And we don't have the manpower to do that. Yeah.
I'm gonna add a paragraph to your comment, and it's not that it'll be you who asks the police as chief, but absolutely, it's appropriate. One of the things I was just gonna ask tonight is, I said policy is set by council, mayor's responsible for putting in a plan, and I was gonna ask, what sort of things do you want to see, and what, so I've now made the note of, I will request that we get a log specifically of probably the 4th and the days leading into and out of that. And so we can get a higher level of that.
Of data.
Do you know do we have any additional staff that night other than any standard Wednesday?
No. I would offer, we have selective traffic enforcement program funding that we go off of, which is, it was designed for traffic and DUI enforcement. One of the blessings for that is, it's kind of the, they're kind of the officers. So we have a state grant where we go out and hunt impaired driving. And one of the blessings for that is if a regular patrol officer that's answering calls that night happens to pull over a vehicle or the driver's intoxicated, we pull the step guy off of what he's doing, and he handles the DUI, and they go back to taking calls. So it kind of balances itself out a little bit.
What about, you know, bringing the drug down?
Oh, the,
Yeah, from highway patrol?
yeah, I could certainly ask the sergeant from the Billings detachment, I can just give him a call and see.
I know that they're busy everywhere on the 4th of July.
That, yeah,
but-
that's more designed for massive scale events like the rally, where the county,
The whole county is impacted.
the whole county is impacted, and mostly their processing area in the sheriff's department that we use.
Okay.
It's one after another. So, yeah, some nights, and some nights can be slow, just depends. We
Yeah.
use the MIDAC van, MIDAC, I think, impaired traffic, anyways. We use that, get all of our stuff done there, and then turn loose.
My understanding is our 4th of July is every bit as busy as Raleigh is, as far as number of people in town and everything.
There's more.
Yeah.
On the 4th?
On the 4th,
Yeah.
there's more people on the 4th. It's just that a lot of them are families instead of,
Ah,
You know.
I see, okay.
yeah.
It
And-
feels different.
It feels different,
Yeah.
but it's because
Yeah.
it's family.
Yeah.
It's family
Yeah.
oriented.
Different.
Yeah, it sounds.
It sounds different, yeah.
But you think there can be close to, I mean, how many people, no, it's different, yeah. But the rodeo is, literally sold out except for general admission tickets already.
What I heard. Well, the
Already?
I heard
Already.
the 4th
What a
of
bummer.
July.
I'm tired of the cheap seats. I try to get into the good
On
ones.
the 4th of July, you might, you know,
Yeah,
Extreme Bowls or the 1st or 2nd,
yeah,
but it's gonna be a good year for attendance.
awesome.
So,
What the chamber
we just
reported
need
was
to-
only the 4th of July.
that's what I
It's
said.
sold out.
That's what I said.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not,
Yeah.
yeah, if you.
That's what I say, you
you go different
could
days.
probably go the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd
Sweet,
and
yeah.
get something, but the 4th of July, all of the, just general admission is all that's left already.
On a
Yeah.
Thursday, so.
Out of curiosity, you said you get a state grant to hunt impaired driving?
Yes, we do. Monica, she's our part-time admin assistant over in the office. She's responsible for doing that.
So we get cash for that, or?
Yeah, they pay us at an overtime rate to go out and handle those calls.
Oh,
And they're very strict. It's like I can't sign up, me personally, I don't even know if I can work step anymore with my position, but like my guys, like they can't get a step shift assigned to them and go out and do like drug targeting. It has to be impaired driving. They're very heavy on seatbelt violations.
thank you.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all seen, we all know
When
about
you see
this.
a 15-year-old die because they're not wearing a seatbelt, what could be a bruise? The
Yep.
parents are the ones that are responsible for that.
Yeah, it's a tough deal. Nobody ever wants to see a dead kid, but
No.
it does happen. So even with his,
Well, you
it's
can't,
good, I wear my seatbelt all the time, even when I'm driving down Broadway.
you can't you can't pull somebody over for not wearing their seatbelt, is that correct?
Correct, it's a secondary offense.
Secondary.
Primary offense would be the 660 law for, child restraint, under 6 years of age or 60 pounds in weight. That is a primary stop, reason
Okay.
for stop. And we do enforce that. It's a pretty aggravating one to see as an
Yeah.
officer, and as a father too. But yeah, adults not wearing a seatbelt is secondary offense. We could still cite them, but
I'm
we have
sure
to
you
have a
could find
primary
some,
reason.
Another
I'm sure you
reason
could
for
find
us to stop
something.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, my mom raced sports cars. She didn't start the engine until we had her seatbelt on.
yeah, no, that's great,
You grow up that way, you raise your kid that way.
yeah.
So when my daughter had the big accident, not only was she wearing her seatbelt, but so were the kids properly restrained.
Yeah, absolutely.
She got bruised.
The driver's ed course just started this morning at 5 AM, but yesterday was our parent meeting,
That's fine.
5 AM for the next 3 weeks. So if you wanna go and give your spiel, that'd be.
I certainly could.
But, Morales emphasizes, so like, he's blue in the face, the safety precautions and the need for seatbelts, and like, he has pamphlets of
Distracted driving too.
data, yes, and they have it laid out by what sort of social media has been the distraction, like, you know, Snapchat, Facebook, all that. And Lily was like, well, that one's not that high anymore, but this one's gonna be way higher, and I bet this one's high, and we're,
Physics, it's the law.
When my niece started driving, we took the radio out of her car. Of course, this was years ago, but too many kids hurt themselves playing with the radio.
If you could take an extra 5 seconds to put your phone in the trunk before you drive, that would be huge, but nobody will do it.
No one will do that.
no, but, I mean, my kids are notorious for using their phones, but it's a music thing, so I can see when they're driving, because I can tell they're listening to music. They have it looks like their little emoji has the headphones on, but they're in a car, and so I'm like, okay, so they're driving, but they're listening to music, so.
Which means they can't hear ambulances or police.
Well, oh, no, I mean, they're not wearing headphones, they're just the emojis, like, they have their
it's the
phone.
emoji.
Oh, you see it
Plugged
before you
in,
hear it
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they have their phone plugged in, so.
Okay.
okay.
All right, so,
Moving on.
I guess we'll just leave it then as, Dave and the chief will work on gathering, more data
Yep.
and, getting the word out.
Enforcement
service
this year, and
enforcement, and,
If council has specific ideas, I welcome those, and we'll relay those down the chain.
Yeah, I like that Dan said it was very democratic to put it on the ballot. I like that. I know that there's pros and cons to that, and I don't discount the tool that the police could use by making it illegal. If they discovered something really bad, then it could be more than a ticket. So, I don't discount the tool either.
well, and what people have to realize is just, if we do make it legal to detonate fireworks in town, the great big ones are still illegal, because those all come from Wyoming, and they're not legal in the state of Montana.
You can buy the big ones like that.
Can you, besides Saturn missiles? What else?
Oh, yeah,
Really?
oh, yeah, I bought them myself.
Really? I thought they were all pretty much small ones, we had to go to Cody for it.
That was back in the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while since I bought fireworks.
Yeah.
Amazon changed the law too.
Oh,
Amazon can ship fireworks?
I believe you can get them on Amazon. I have not, but.
huh.
I know that,
I know you can get poppers and stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see what we can find.
yeah, I know that you can go buy mortars and stuff like that at fireworks stand from Montana.
Okay, good to know then. I'm mistaken.
Options to fund another police officer, school
Okay.
resource officer have we any more information on that?
Yeah, I had a meeting with the superintendent a couple of weeks ago. They laid out their vision for the program, as did I, and they aligned pretty well. When I spoke to them, they were more apt to, speak about doing a 50-50 in terms of salary. However, 3/4 of the year, I'd be more comfortable with 75-25. That's a discussion that I'm gonna follow up with, gonna be bringing the mayor with me next week sometime to meet with the superintendent, so, getting, three brains on it would be beneficial. There is interest, in the departments, and, outside of the department as well for such a gig. It's beneficial to us, number one, for school safety. That's one of my biggest things. I've talked about it forever. An SRO it'd be a massive, win for us. And for the schools too, obviously, in terms of security, and also to humanize police officers, children and their families. It's more of a, I see it more, as a role model role, as an enforcement role,
Public relations.
Yep.
a good PR project, absolutely.
Mentorship.
And then for that, what that would entail is when the school year is over, that officer belongs to me, as he does during the school year. I mean, he reports to me ultimately. However, during the summertime, that officer is, on the street, and he belongs to us.
Like the busiest there.
The busiest events, also, the school events are, big too.
Football games, basketball games.
Football, basketball, there are problems at those, I mean, like, we've seen them before. Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic idea.
So when you brought up the 75-25 as opposed to 50-50, did they give you any feedback why they thought it should be 50-50? Is there anything else?
No, it was more of a preliminary discussion between me, John Fitzgerald, the superintendent, the principal, Dana Quinzer, and some other staff from the middle school and high school. It was kind of a roundtable meeting. And a member of the school board as well, Matt Heaton was there. And we just kind of bounced ideas off of each other. They showed me what their SRO policy is. We have an SRO policy. I also have a memorandum of understanding draft that I obtained from, the sheriff, who originally obtained it from other areas with, SRO programs, and they're, actually, the county's looking at doing it too. So, yeah.
So you don't see any stumbling blocks, it's just a matter of that was just the initial conversation?
It was just the initial conversation.
Good.
And that's the reason for this upcoming, is I'd like to talk about pricing more in depth. If you want to reserve an officer for 3/4 of the year, that's great, but, we expect in turn.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, so that policy, Doug, is actually the council's decision. So as I go into those conversations, I would love to, you guys are the body who says, if you're gonna pay for 50%, you get 50%. Or you're the body who says, we're okay giving you 75%, even if you're only paying for 50%. My job is to execute. You guys provide that guidance as to what your feeling and thought is. You are the policy making decision of board, body of the city.
I would, when I was looking through those grants, those CUP grants, I mean, there is a grant out there to pay for the school resource officer, for a resource officer.
I just need a grant writer.
Yeah, so that's, so I guess that's
You do it?
kind of segues into.
Did she just volunteer?
She raised her hand.
Missy.
She
Oh.
raised her hand, so I'll do it.
Well,
Yeah.
Missy, Mary Vet, Jen Battles.
I spoke with Jen actually in the meeting a couple of weeks ago, and she was gonna get back to me.
Well, then,
Jen, she,
I'll,
Yeah,
I just
she's.
talked to her this morning.
She is very busy though.
Yeah, that's what she told me, she's like, she doesn't have a lot of bandwidth right now to take on anything else. So that's what, and I really would like to see, in the budget, money for grant writing or training, an existing staff member to be able to take that on.
at some point. I think I'll
No,
talk
like
to Mary Vet.
this next,
Somebody-
budget.
I'd like to, I'll talk to Mary Vet.
Okay.
She's a good grant writer too, and I
Sure.
sat with her this last Saturday.
Yeah.
So, she's still interested in the city workings and was
Right.
a
But if you have $20,000 in your budget, you can,
go a long way.
yeah, it would go a long way to help, pay someone
Because
to
a
write
grant,
those grants, or train an existing staff member.
because a grant writer can be paid for administrating. for
Typically, you don't get paid for writing the grant through the grant. It only, you can get paid for administering the grant later, but when you
Not
write,
to originally
to
write
write
it.
right, and so it's really not fair to just people out in the community to ask them to write grants for you without some type of compensation for their time. What? Speaking right over there. But yes, I would love it if you talked to Mary Beth. Yeah, I do know, Jen did say she'd love to help, but her bandwidth isn't great right now.
Understood, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind too is that grants do eventually run out.
I know.
I know, they do.
That's the
but-
worst part.
They
Yeah,
do,
you know, I
but
think-
if it gets the program started,
Yeah.
and, I mean, any money right now is better than no money.
Sure. And one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on too in the upcoming meetings, they wanted to talk about, well, you know, it'd be a good thing to start out as part-time. Well, if you're responsible for 2 schools,
Yeah,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
How are you gonna run back and forth? I mean, physically, they're not next to each other and.
Yeah. I would leave that, to the officer's plan, which I would approve at the end, about scheduling when and where. And it could also alter, because one thing that kids are very smart, and if there's a set schedule of when a law enforcement officer is in school, they will know about it.
Okay.
yeah, and, but if we could also, I think we'd be money ahead if we could, if there's someone in, you know, Monica or someone in admin that has an interest in grant writing to get them trained. So they can
Monica's
have
been
it,
solid for us thus far. in
Yeah.
terms of that. She's
So-
applied for several different grants under me.
okay?
Yep.
Yeah, so,
We're talking 2 different Monicas, I think.
oh, are we, not that Monica, this is a different Monica.
Yeah, this Monica here.
That
Oh,
Monica,
this Monica has been doing
Yeah.
grants for you?
Yes.
so, yeah, so whatever we can.
Is Monica full-time?
She's part-time in my office.
And then part-time in the,
Yeah, she does a fantastic job of it.
yeah, because there were, I don't know, just when I was looking through this, the number of grant opportunities that we have out there
Yeah.
are just huge, and I just think we're leaving money on the table by not having someone
Yeah,
actively going after as much money as they can.
I agree.
Even if it's a temporary thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, just even for training
When I
purposes,
talked-
you can get a lot of money for training your guys, especially the new ones.
And that's longer lasting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it just,
I talked to Bill Bullock, and he said that they did get the grant from COPS for another officer, but they haven't been able to find another officer.
Yeah. They got one guy right now, I think, in backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, it's tough to hire cops. Knock on wood, I've been very fortunate, when we do have vacancies, my applicant pool is pretty awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
and then, since we're talking about the school resource officer, I just kind of, because it has to do with the school, I went to the Parks Board meeting, and, they brought up a real concern with, the javelin throwers, throwing the javelins untipped out onto the soccer field where people walk and, recreate in the parks, because it's all open to the public. And, they were going to get a copy of the MOU with the high school and make sure that it's written in there, because right now the high school apparently has been told that they can't do that.
Yeah.
And they are doing it
And who's
anyway.
responsible for telling the high school that they can't do that?
Well, I don't know, that's,
We have an MOU with the high school.
When it comes to schools, MOUs and the public, it's a non-criminal matter. It's
Yeah.
very, it's hit very heavily on the side of the civil side of the law.
Right.
Yeah,
That would be-
they do have a specific spot that they're supposed to throw that in, and they are on land that they lease from us, so as a city, we have the ability to enforce if they're in violation of.
Yeah, we'll talk to, got Beth Graham, because she was the one that had real concerns about it. Apparently when they throw them on the brand new football field, they keep the tips on the javelins. But when they're not,
They're not allowed to throw on them.
yeah,
And then they're also I've been up there when they were advised to not throw in the field, thus zero practice.
yeah,
That's one of the reasons why Caleb quit track, was because he was a javelin thrower, and he goes, when do I practice? At the track
Yeah.
meet?
yeah. So I think we need to try to work a solution out there, because,
I will take that and follow up with Fitzgerald.
okay.
Sounds like an administration thing.
Yeah, and whether it's a fenced-off area so that public
Or
can't
an
get,
allocated time, I mean, track practice runs
right, you put
a
up yellow,
2 hour-
I don't know,
a
yeah,
2-hour time limit on the
Right.
evening.
Is there a problem with, so they couldn't play on the football field unless they were tipped, but on the soccer field, they take the tips off. Why aren't they on the soccer field?
Well, I don't know that they're necessarily on the soccer field, they were just throwing it out
Towards-
towards,
And I don't even know, I mean, I can't speak for this year because, but I'm trying to think if they even use the actual javelin or they use like that training thing, like
yeah.
not a real javelin. But either way, yeah, it's been an issue. I know.
Right.
Okay, I'll take it for follow-up,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay. And we've kind of toyed with public safety district.
Right, I mean, some of these I think they're still on the table. It just, and the annexation, I mean, those are all just moving parts that, I'm not sure, I guess, Dave, I don't know where you guys are at on gathering the data for the annexation from the public works and stuff.
The last information I heard from Mike is that he thought the math worked out, that it was still wise to do so. But,
Okay,
once he comes back with that final recommendation, that'll ultimately be council who says yes, move forward with
because
that.
that would help our general fund out.
It would, and the most significant, there's two parts in that it's not, and the specific conversation and driving tour he and I did was in Remington Ranch.
Yeah,
And so there's a spot where it quits, and it's basically aligns with the paved versus the non-paved roads up there.
right,
And it is a heavier level of snow. And again, the initial feedback is that he thinks it's worth it. He has not come back with a written recommendation to basically request council consider and move forward with it. So,
Okay.
but it is still on his plate, and we have chatted about it.
because I guess I would like to, get the final answer on the annexation, before we decide whether or not we're gonna move forward with asking for a public safety district, because it completely changes the lines of the public safety district if you do the 5 miles outside the city limits. And it may be that we get enough money where we don't necessarily have to,
Well, we never have enough money.
no, I know that.
Well, and I will offer my 2 cents, and I will share with this group that the budget thing that I went to last week was drastically underwhelming. They had an hour allotted for something that should have been 4 or 8 hours, and it was the first hour, which meant the first 45 minutes was actually introduction to the council. So the thing that I went for the most was not there, other than I got the contacts that are there. My philosophy, belief, or approach on this is basically, if we get more money, that's a public decision, it's not ours, we can put it on the ballot. But I still feel like we have to be able to explain that budget. From a management side, I always had the saying that sometimes you have to run an idea past somebody a few times before they think of it. I think ultimately on our taxes, that's what it's gonna be. If we can say, here's where our money is, and here's where, that, if the public comes up and says, we're short here, we need more money here, then the conversation turns to, do we do that by allowing resort tax to go for that? Do we do that with a special mill? Do we do that by just raising general mills? And then the other thing that will come up in that time frame is, does the fire district, the fire district idea, which we got some clarification on, that as a city, we should not be involved in directly. We can be informational, but we should not be for or against or take an official. This is the public initiative. It could be a ballot, council could put it on the ballot, but as far as the signature initiative, we, the city, should not be involved.
It's
Where
not
the-
a ballot, it has to be a petition of the property owner.
There's actually 3 different ways to do it.
Oh,
So so it can be a petition from the property ballot, it can be a public initiative to put it on the ballot, or it can be a council decision to put it on the ballot. So those are 3 different mechanisms,
okay,
all of which get you toward that same end result.
Wow,
okay.
that would be really good.
So did you talk to someone else besides Angela that day then?
That was conversations with Dan and at the
Okay.
conference and stuff.
Okay.
When you say with Angela that day,
Well, just
I
that-
don't remember a conversation
When,
with Angela.
after we had first brought this back up, you had,
Oh, Angela was the one who first raised the, yeah, don't, if it's the, and so the answer is yes.
Okay.
It came up at the conference and with Dan.
Okay, getting back on annexation, I did talk to Jade, who's the HOA president of Woodlands on Rock Creek, and I asked her what the expenses were that the HOA is currently paying. And, last year they paid $51,771 for road maintenance and snow removal. Let's see,
They
snow
paid
removal.
how much?
Well, snow removal was $18,062, Northwest Energy was $6405.
Well, that's
Lonnie,
for the lift station, and the city wouldn't pay for that.
and I don't know why they paid Lonnie $6480,
Lonnie,
that's what it says. Lonnie, $6480.
sewer?
And this is from,
Woodlands on Rock Creek concerning the sewer,
concerning the what, I'm sorry?
concerning the sewer.
Okay. Oh, so I
I don't
can tell you that there's an administrative part of the sewer cost, so it's probably not Lonnie, it's just admin. There's like a 3% or something that's built into the bills that would track the cost
Well,
of
they
that.
did, she did say that Lonnie told them that they're going to need new sewer pumps because they have to pump it up to the sewer pond. And I don't know why Lonnie was involved at all.
Yeah, there's something
But
that doesn't track.
there's something
Who-
very
who is
odd
that
with
you were
that.
speaking
Jade.
with?
Jade Haskins, whatever her long last name is now, Hergenberger. I can give you her number.
Okay.
Road maintenance was $18,068, so that's a total of $49,015, and that doesn't include the $50,000 in sewer pumps currently on the books to be replaced. So that's an interesting one, that Jade told me, Lonnie told her that they need new sewer pumps. And then Mark Jarvis for gravel, $22.23.
Mark Jarvis.
Red Lodge Electric, $533 for the pump.
I think what I'm
They
hearing
had the
is that I need to
gravel
have
one.
Mike and Jade talk. Does that sound?
I think
Yeah.
so, because Jade did give me the information from their treasurer. I can go ahead and forward that
Okay.
to Mike.
Forward it to me, please, and I will go ahead and
Okay.
take
Well,
care of
it's
that.
gonna probably cost the city a lot less to plow than it will, I mean, if they're hiring.
Then what they're,
Yeah, if they're hiring
If we're doing
welders
it
or
firsthand versus
yeah.
outsourcing.
I mean, it's it's crazy what you pay for hiring someone to remove snow.
so that's the only data that I've gotten so far.
And some of that wouldn't be the city's responsibility anyway, if they were annexed in. There's still a subdivision of planned unit development that was responsible for a lot of that in order to be approved, that they would still have, their homeowners association would still have to pay.
And our streets would not be, everything that's in there, it would just be the part within the part that has agreed to be part of the city is the part that has sewer facilities.
Exactly.
And like I said, that aligns with the paved road and the dirt road up there.
Yeah.
No, well, I was talking out at Woodlands, I'm sorry, with all those.
Yeah, you're talking Grandview South,
Okay.
which is completely paved.
Woodlands is out at 2 Mile Bridge, by the sewer
Okay,
plant.
that's,
Yeah.
It's off of 2 miles.
and so the Jade Haskins is Woodlands?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just,
She's the president of the homeowners.
forwarded the, text to you.
Okay.
You might wait a week or so before you contact her. Her mother-in-law is having open heart surgery in Kansas. So anyway, I did get some information on that. So our options were the public safety district, annexation, we're still collecting information.
Yes.
Resort tax, any update?
We haven't met.
Okay,
We meet next week. And they, just that they are gonna do the survey.
okay.
I mean, they will, it probably will be after the summer. They really do not want to, as I said, they don't want to use, more of the resort tax to help fund the daily running of the city, was the message from Tom, from basically the majority of the board, Tom, Chris.
And that's the public's decision, right?
Right, yeah, but that doesn't mean,
That's the resort tax
Pardon?
committee, that's the resort tax committee.
Well, but
Well,
it
they
was
don't-
The
based
survey
on,
says.
well, if we use it, is going to be the public. So in other words, to change and allow the use would be a public decision. And so they're saying, so the question, and going back a little bit, no, we don't want to use the resort tax for the daily operations of the city, but if the choice becomes, we want to use the resort tax, or do we want to increase the mills? Oh, no, we're good with the resort tax. That's
Right.
basically the conversation. And that's what I say, it's got to be, it's them who's ultimately going to pass it, and
The public.
if they're, the public's going to pass
So
it, and it's
the
going to
resort
be
tax
their
committee
idea.
does not have legislative authority. And that would have to go through council to request to have it put on the ballot.
The
But I
only
don't-
option right now, so the options that don't involve public input to increase operating expense right now, there's a couple of different options. One is if the initiative by acclamation with the 40%
Mhm.
for the fire department, that gives us 28 mills. That's option one. Special districts go through council, not through the public body. So if you guys, as council, determine we're gonna put something out there, then there's a public protest, and then assuming it doesn't surpass some number, which is never going to happen, then that is basically council increasing specific fees. And so you can have specific districts, that's council, not the voters. Or the third is you go with something that reflects directly into taxes, and that's the public.
Yeah, and taxes are really taking a hit this year, where I know we're taking garbage out of the taxes, but we're putting the stormwater project back in, and so, perception is important as well when we're starting to deal with taxes. If it were just one thing, that would be different.
I have a question. We say the resort tax goes to the citizens, but aren't they given options here or where we can spend the money?
Yes, that's the language that they passed.
And who is it that determines those options? Is that the committee?
That's council.
So the committee makes recommendations and council puts it on the ballot.
All right.
Well, council actually writes it. Last time, it was, the resort tax committee recommended how it should be written, and council passed it, and that's what we have now. But we changed the resort tax, expanding how we could spend it a lot with this last passage. So,
Can we,
When was that?
can we see that?
2019?
I'd like to see, the list of things that resort tax can be used for.
It's on the website.
Okay.
It's
It's in the ordinance.
I didn't know-
The biggest
And is
difference
that
between the
updated?
first time, so the biggest difference between the first and the most recent passing was the first time when it was passed, it was for capital expenditures only, which means you could use it to build a park,
pool.
but you couldn't use it to maintain the park.
Right.
And so the last thing that changed last time is it can now be used for maintenance. There was one specific park allocation resource that can go through it, but the public feedback was pretty much, they still didn't want to see it going into running the city, AKA additional police officers,
Paying
and that was,
admin,
and that was
paying the judge,
specifically
paying
called
the
out,
city
so.
attorney, paying.
And
Well-
I agree with that. I just think that resort tax should be used to offset the expenses incurred because we are a resort city.
But would you not easily make the argument that part of our police force need is our public safety need is based on the fact that we are a resort town?
Yes, but it increases during the summer, and therefore we should have some sort of funding for overtime due to due to vacationers. You know, when our tourists come in, summer, I'm not doing winter, but summer, you know, when our population minimally doubles pretty much all summer at least, or then sometimes triples and quadruples depending on, you know, the special events, that causes an increase in police overtime. And that's what I'm trying to get is police overtime, not police. Does that make sense?
It's not enough.
But it's not, but I'm not the decider.
No, I'm just, And
I don't think that's enough. I don't
you
think
don't think
you're,
that would help enough?
Overtime is nice when it's needed. But what I would in turn be asking my guys to do, who are already stretched thin, have families at home, and they spend more time with us here than they do with their own families, is, hey, you can come in on your day off and do it all over again.
Well, that's all of us that are working shifts.
I
That's
know.
that's not unique to.
Like,
It's different for cops that are working night till 7 in the morning.
So West Yellowstone, to give you an example, so the state statute says that there must be an element of the resort tax that is used to offset property tax. When West Yellowstone passed theirs, 100% of theirs goes into the same bucket as property tax. Their logic is, it is offsetting property taxes because we don't have to raise property taxes because we have that money there. So they actually completely did a different approach than every other city and nobody thought that was an option initially, but West Yellowstone actually did it, and their attorney, and it's not been challenged for 30 or 40 years now, was that is in fact decreasing property taxes because we're not having to raise property taxes to add additional services. But again, to do that, that's a voter initiative, which
it was
means
passed that way.
it has to be their ID. Council puts it on the ballot, but part of it, again, that's kind of moving into the next stage. Phase one was, let's get this working, everybody doing their roles, and phase two is we have to tell the budget story so that our public can tell us, here's what we want to do. We either want to get by with less, or we want to come up with more money using mechanism A, B, or C.
And that's what I've always wanted to do, but then I get pushback, is to give people that choice. You know, either we're going to, you know, we lower the amount of services you're getting because we can't pay for it, or we, you know, raise money one of these ways. But then I get pushback, and they're like, well, you're threatening them with the services. I'm like, no, it's the truth. I mean, like, you can't only, yeah.
And
Once the
part of
money's gone, it's gone. I mean,
part of the
it's not.
department budgets this year is gonna be, here's the budget,
Yeah.
here's the services we were able to provide for that, here's what we would do if we had more, and here's where we're gonna have to cut it if we don't. And so that's part of the presentation that the department heads are gonna be doing for the council this year,
Okay, and the public,
and the public, yeah. But that's part of that conversation.
okay.
Okay.
well, it seems like when you say, here's what the resort tax is for, no expenses, no maintenance, nothing like that, that's all good and dandy, that sounds good. But reality is reality. We have to deal with finances here, and we can't just put that off to the side and say, well, we can't touch that. We will, you know, slowly deteriorate before we touch that. That's wrong.
But we don't get to say, that's the
Well,
voters.
one other thing, I think it should be brought up more than once every 5 years.
That's what I was,
Because your
that's
needs
why I was
change.
going. Yeah.
Situations change.
Well, the
No,
last
we
survey,
renewed
the
it.
poll was,
We can do the survey, for sure, however long we want. Probably, you know, but once every 5 years on how the public would like it voted, you know, how it would like to spend.
Yeah, it's actually a 20-year path.
But, yeah, it's a 20-year path. I mean, we don't want to have to renew our resort tax every 5 years. I mean, it's renewed for 20 years.
no, I
we
think
can
we
put
knew
it
how
be-
we use it.
Yeah,
Right.
we can go through and, you can put it on the ballot and ask for changes on how we spend it. But you want the language to be broad enough that you don't have to do that more than, you know, not very often.
Well, I'm just hearing that we're hamstrung here. We've got financial needs, but we got this source
we were
of money
really
we can't touch.
We were really hamstrung 5 years ago.
Well, okay.
I mean, it was
That's-
crazy.
then
I
that
mean,
We're improved, but
yeah, we improved it.
Your statement is true, thank you for volunteering.
But
I agree that we need to review exactly how it's used. And does the city council have the right at that point, David, to say, I see how it's used and what percentage goes to each thing, but the city council would like to change some of those formulas?
So the city council cannot change, but the city council can propose to the voters that there is a change.
So it has to
And you
go
could do
to,
that
has
as
to go to the
frequently as
voters.
you wanted, or there may be a 1-year limitation, but I don't think so. Practically speaking, it probably is, but you could, you as a council could say, we want to fix the budgets, we want to allow the dollars to be, and you just put it to the public. And my only 2 cents is, I think that will have a more successful chance if our public feels like we are able to adequately explain why the need exists. And I don't feel, based on feedback, that we've done that up to yet.
No, I don't think we have either. When I joined the resort tax committee to get it renewed, because there was a huge backlash from people that thought that the city had been mismanaging the money and were just blowing it left and right, you know, who knows what they were doing. So we formed this resort tax committee and we pointed out exactly where and how the money had been spent. And the majority of the money had been spent the way it was supposed to be spent.
But it was underground.
It
where
was
wasn't
underground and
visible.
people didn't see it. It was all water and sewer lines. So, you know, we have to be very careful because it wasn't that long ago that we almost didn't get it renewed. And I don't even know if we'd be a city right now if we hadn't gotten it renewed. I mean, it would just be, we would have no money.
I don't think anybody's talking about getting it renewed, it's how we spend the money. And if West Yellowstone got around it, looks like we could be creative and get around it too.
I'm just saying,
But
we have,
that was the way they presented it to the voters.
we have to tell the story in a way that people trust us, that we're not just looking for a slush fund to run the city. Because there's that perception out there.
I think hiring an extra officer is not a slush.
No, and I'm not saying that it is at all. I absolutely
So-
feel that resort tax should be able to be spent on public safety. I've been advocating that all along. I'm just getting tons of pushback from the resort tax committee.
Well, maybe we need different people on that committee.
Well, why don't we start with the city council
can't-
reviewing the resort tax uses?
You don't just
And
take
if
people off
we
the
feel that
committee
we
because they
should
don't agree with
change
you.
that,
Well, what's best for
we'll
the
put
city?
it to the voters.
I mean, ever since I've been on council, the main thing I heard, we don't have enough police, we're dangerous to law, we're turnovers. I mean, I've heard that every day. Does the
I
committee
know.
not hear that?
They do, but we have to tell the story to them as well.
Why
I
haven't
guess.
we told it already?
They just don't listen to Jody.
I guess not. Well, you know, it's more of, I think we need to see how the budget, Tom Coons is on the resort tax committee, and he has been advocating that the city could get more money through the annexing the city into the Red Lodge Rural Fire Department, 28 mils. He would rather have that happen than change the resort tax and how we're spending it right now. And they are actually advocating for what the people have told them how they want the money spent. And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be that liaison between the public and council. And this is what they're hearing from the people. That's why I want a new survey, because I want the story out there so the people can say, yes, we do want the money spent on public safety.
Excuse me. Okay, but the city council can review the resort tax uses currently and then look at whether we feel as a city council that that's the appropriate use. But the resort tax committee could still do the survey, and between the two, maybe come to an understanding. It hasn't been voted on by the public since 2019, is that correct?
Right,
No.
when we renewed it.
Was it that long ago that we renewed it? I thought it was like 3 years ago.
No, it
Three to
was
four. It was when I was
November.
on council, because I hand walked that thing through 3 different times to
Yeah,
get
you were
through.
on council. It might have been 2020, it was 2019 or 2020, I can't remember.
But
That
Thought it
is
was
5 years ago.
So the resort tax
It was
group
4 years ago in November.
is there for you to utilize, and so that you're not doing all of the work. Your decision is to put something before the voters, but the voters decide on it. So it's not
No, I
you and the
understand.
resort tax coming
No,
together.
the city
Okay.
council could make a recommendation to put it on the
No,
vote.
you
No,
do
no.
a resolution to put it on.
Okay.
Yours isn't a recommendation, yours is
No.
the action.
We can ask
Resort
them
tax
about it.
committee could recommend that we put this out there,
Based on the survey.
based on the survey. That would be the actual proper way of doing it, would be the resort tax committee does the survey, we have that feedback. The survey says people support this because we've gotten our story out there with this budget process. Then we put it on the ballot, and then hopefully it passes. But if you just put it on the ballot right now, it probably will fail, because we haven't explained to people, the public, general public
Well, we're
enough.
not asking them to renew the resort tax, we're
No.
asking for use of the resort tax.
But when
Yeah,
we
for
did
more
the
leniency.
survey in 2019, the police and public safety was at the very bottom
But
of the way they wanted
pool was on
it.
the top,
That is
Right.
correct.
so now the pool is gone.
Well, it's still
Well,
not
no,
paid
we're
for.
still paying for the
Well,
pool.
yes, Okay.
And we're still paying for the management and the running of the pool.
And is it a percentage of the resort tax collected that goes towards each thing?
No,
It's however we budget. So I will
We budget.
build that budget and you approve the budget.
right.
For resort tax?
For
Right.
all of it,
Yeah.
resort tax and
It's
property
in the
tax
budget,
both.
yeah.
Okay.
So the bond payment on the pool is $98,000 a year. And then we also pay, for the running of the pool, the salaries. We do have some offset from the fees that are collected, but it does not pay for the whole thing,
We need to wrap this so we can start the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yes, yeah, we're at 5 minutes.
so.
And public outreach, I think that we've kind of touched on that public
Yeah.
outreach. The school resource officer would be a great way to
Did you
go.
guys participate at all in the,
Bike rodeo?
Or we did not, no.
you didn't? Oh, shoot.
And,
We gotta get you guys involved in that. That's not right.
anybody in the public would like, to talk to us about something, bring up a topic?
Somebody online there?
Is there anybody online that has a topic that would like to, address the committee?
They're muted.
They're muted.
They are muted.
They are muted.
Can they raise their hand? No? All right, based on that, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, lucky chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.